Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice Radio. So today, we're going to be looking at the best deck in Japan. I feel quite confident calling this the best deck in Japan. They had a very large Pokemon tournament over in Japan yesterday, ladies and gentlemen. And quite frankly, this was the winner. And as far as I'm concerned, the winner of the big tournament over in Japan, probably okay to call it the best deck in Japan. And it probably shouldn't surprise you if you've been following my videos and following the Japanese meta, that it was Reshiram and Charizard. This is a phenomenal card that is really crazy good and has completely transformed the Japanese meta. And you should expect it to do the same thing when it comes out over here. This is a ridiculous card that is the best card in the format. This is the best deck in the format. This isn't some dude who turned up with a cheeky list from an underplayed card. This is the dude who turned up with a really good list of the best deck in the format. So Reshiram and Charizard then. Fire, Colorless Energy, 30 damage, plus 10 more for each damage counter on this Pokemon. It's fine, you won't use it all that often, but it's there if you're hit but not KO'd. Flare Strike, 230 damage, but you can't use it next turn for 4 energy. This is your bread and butter. 230 for 4 energy, this is your bread and butter attack. This is the one you use most often. Yes, you can't use it next turn, but we've seen it on a million Pokemon in the past, and that's never stopped us before. And you just smash. And with a choice band, this turns into 260. There's the odd Pokemon that won't get a one-hit KO on, but the vast majority of the time it will. And then free Fire Energy, Double Blaze, 200 damage. But if you've got at least 6 Fire Energy on there, you do 300 damage, and it is not affected by any effects on the defending Pokemon. So you go through any protection they might have, while getting a one-hit KO on literally anything. You're going to get every GX with the main attack. The only thing you're not going to be getting is the odd Tag Team GX, and then you've got your GX attack to take them down and get free prizes using it. We've got a lot of support for fire, we'll get into all that in a moment, and that means that this is a viable Pokemon with attacks that aren't that difficult to use, and that makes it the best Pokemon in the format. It's phenomenal. Now there are some backup Pokemon, but let's make no mistake about it, these are all either Little Techs or backups to Reshiram and Charizard. So we've got one Tapu Lele to get ourselves a supporter card. We've got one Dedenne, which is there, discard your hand, draw 6 cards. It's there to help you set up, it's there to get you going. We've got one Marshadow for the potential to let loose, put your opponent down to a 4-card hand. Hopefully they draw basically nothing and lose the game. It's Marshadow, it's a one-of in an awful lot of decks right now. We've got one copy of the new Mew. Now, the new Mew is here very simply because it gives protection when it's on the bench. It protects your bench Pokemon from attacks, so anything that would hit the bench is not going to. Certainly something like Pikarom, being able to do 170 to the bench when you're playing stuff like Tapu Lele and Dedenne, which would be KO'd by that. Yeah, that's pretty gosh darned important. We've got a couple copies of Jirachi. Whenever you're switching, you put Jirachi in the active, and then you get to look at the top 5 cards of your deck, put a trainer card from there in your hand, and then Jirachi goes to sleep, but then you retreat with a skateboard so you're fine. It's good. It's really good. And any deck where you want to be switching occasionally, this is pretty gosh darn good. We've got one copy of Absol because it increases the retreat cost of any basic Pokemon. And honestly, there's a lot of Tag Team GXs around at the moment. And they're all basic Pokemon. Now, don't get me wrong, there are others, but Tag Team GXs seem to be the main use for this. And then we have a couple which are slightly weirder. We've got one copy here of Miltank. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we're playing Miltank. It's the really fun one that came out in Crimson Invasion that's got Moo Moo Molt as an ability. If it's your active Pokemon, when you attach an energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon, you heal 90 damage from that Pokemon. And I think we've gone as far as we can in this video without talking about Welder. Welder lets you attach 2 fire energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon, and then draw 3 cards. Well, this will activate Miltank's ability. So if you attach free energy from your hand, you're healing 270 damage. So with Welder and your attachment for the turn, you can completely heal a Reshiram and Charizard. And remember, you're going to be using free energy for the main attack, but then you need free more energy to use a GX attack. So after you've finished with the main attack, you attach the energy, heal up, use a GX attack. It's ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen. And then we've got one copy here of Hooper. Now, this makes me kind of happy and kind of not. You see, I said this Hooper wasn't very good. And incidentally, I still don't think it's amazing. But for one colorless energy, you do 10 damage plus 20 more for each of your opponent's Pokemon with an ability in play. And every so often, you'll be able to get KOs with this. You'll be hitting 70, 90, 110, maybe even 130 damage. And if that can take out evolving Pokemon, or that can take out non-GX Pokemon, that puts Surprise Race in your favour. You're generally only attacking with Tag Team GXs here. I've shown you a bunch of support Pokemon, but they are support Pokemon. This is the only other attacker we've got in the deck. And it might not be great in every game, and it might be situational, but the fact of the matter is, this is going to be a non-GX attacker, and when it can get KOs, it is going to help you out massively. That's the Pokemon line. 3 Reshiram and Charizard, 2 Jirachi, and then 7 other one-off Pokemon. Yeah, we're really playing around here. In terms of the energy, it probably shouldn't surprise you. It's all basic fire energy because of stuff like Welder. Cool. So, I talked about fire tricks, I've already mentioned Welder, but we're also playing a bunch of Kiawe here. Yeah, Kiawe ends your turn and that sucks, but it also gets 4 energy on one of your Pokemon from the deck. Better on turn 1, because to be honest with you, you're not going to be attacking anyway, if you go first anyway. But any turn where you just don't have the energy, this is cool. Incidentally, this will not activate Miltank's ability because you're not attaching from the hand, you are attaching from the deck. So you couldn't use this to completely heal something up, but it still gets 4 energy on the field. It's still pretty gosh darn good. We've also got Heat Factory Prism Star. Discard a fire energy from your hand, draw 3 cards. But as well as that, we got 3 copies of Giant Furnace. Giant Furnace is Viridian Forest with 2 key differences. You can only get fire energy, but you get 2 of them. You discard a card from your hand to get 2 basic energy from your deck, but they've got to be fire. Oh yes, that's right. Welder lets you attach 2 fire energy from your hand. That's a good combo. But we're actually only playing 1 copy of Giant Furnace because we're also playing 2 Unmanned Power Station. Really depends how it gets translated when it comes out over here. It turns off abilities of EX and GX Pokemon. And okay, you've got Tapu Lele, and alright, you've got Dedenne, but after a turn or 2, you ain't going to be using them, and you can shut down your opponent's stuff like Zoroark. Yeah, that sounds pretty gosh darn good to me. This is a stadium we are going to see over and over again. So we do see 3 different stadiums here. And the last one I want to bring your attention to before we run through the last couple cards. 2 copies of Reset Stamp. I told you time and time again when we saw this card that it is going to be huge, it is going to impact the format. And I know not everyone agreed with me and I saw some very strong opinions to the contrary, but it's seeing a lot of play in Japan. 2 copies of it were in the winning deck. This is not going to stop. Reset Stamp is a phenomenal card that is going to change the way we play the game, and I stand by that. Now, it's a one-sided end for your opponent. Your opponent shuffles a hand into their deck and draws a number of cards equal to the number of prize cards that they have remaining. Frankly, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to give some huge, huge comebacks. This is your way of going, oh, you're up by 3 or 4 or 5 prizes. I'm going to play this and win the game. It's going to keep happening. You are going to see this coming back over and over again. Now, I did lie a little bit to you earlier, because you see we have 3 copies of Fire Crystal. Yeah, it's also one of these cards for fire decks. I'm sorry. What Fire Crystal does is it lets you pick up free fire energy from your discard pile. It's just really good at getting your fire energy back. In my defense, he's playing all secret rare cards, and I had to identify a secret rare from this image. It's not terribly easy, ladies and gentlemen. All the secret rares have those stars on. Luckily, I did it, and I'm a little bit proud of myself. Now, in terms of the rest of the deck, we've got 4 Ultra Ball and 4 Nest Ball. You need to get your Pokemon out here. Ultra Ball searches anything, Nest Ball gets your basics. I know you're playing all basics, but you've got coming into play abilities here, like Tapu Lele and Dedenne, which do not operate when you search them with Nest Ball. And you don't mind having the energy in a discard because you're playing Fire Crystal here. We've also got a couple copies of Switch and a couple copies of Escape Rope. We're using both Jirachi and we're using Miltank here, both of which want to get in the active to use their abilities but do not want to stay in the active. And of course we've got a skateboard to get them out the active, or at least Jirachi. Miltank, that's not quite so easy. Miltank's got a slightly more expensive retreat. But the point is, you want to be switching around a lot. We got these switching cards. We've then got 2 copies of Choice Band to do a little bit of extra damage, and then just 1 single copy of Adventure Bag. Adventure Bag lets you search for a couple of tools. It means you can either get your Choice Band or your Escape Board, depending on what you need at that particular moment. And then we've obviously got 3 copies of Guzma. It acts as a switch, it pulls Pokemon off the bench, it's pretty gosh darn good. And this deck is pretty gosh darn good. It's a very tricky list with lots of one-off Pokemon, but the fact of the matter is, this is a deck that is built to just destroy with Reshiram and Charizard. And Reshiram and Charizard is great. And remember that Charizard cards are always expensive because they're really popular. So now that this is officially the best deck in the format, yeah. It's coming out in Unbroken Bonds, and when Unbroken Bonds comes out, get used to seeing this everywhere. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. This is the best deck in Japan. But I would very much like to know what you think about it, so please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! But please do remember the rule, ladies and gentlemen. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can be doing exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WasiPlays, where we talk about games that don't have Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.